Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start this video with a classic Karen in the Wild encounter, parking lot edition. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Karen demands I break the laws of physics to let her out. I had a friend in from out of town, and we decided to go to a major attraction in my city that I hadn't yet been to. Needless to say, with it being one of the last sunny Saturdays of the summer, the parking lot was packed. We find ourselves waiting behind a line of about 5 cars, and there are a few other cars behind us in the parking lot. It's a one-way road. We're sitting there for about 2 minutes when suddenly the parked car next to us starts honking. Let me just add in really quick that if someone's clearly trying to get out of a parking spot, like inching forward, turning their lights on, etc., then I'll always make room if I can. Duh. I didn't see anything like that when we got in line. I didn't even notice anyone was in the car at all. We look over and Karen and Ken are in the front seat, but seem to be making arm movements like, oops, we hit the horn. They're smiling and waving. I don't know, so we just ignore it. Suddenly, Karen gets out of the car and storms up in a fury and hard knocks on my driver's window. She's got the crazy eyes. I roll it down just enough to talk because I was honestly bewildered. This woman says, "Can you guys just move? We're trying to get out of here." Thinking that I might be talking to an alien who doesn't fully grasp the concept of time and space, I say something to the effect of, "We can't get through these cars any easier than you can, sorry." She goes on to say, "Be serious. You can squeeze through on the left and get past all these cars. Figure it out. You can do it. We believe in you." I said I'll do what I can and rolled my window back up. Since I'm a people pleaser, I did the whole crane my neck thing for a few seconds and saw that the cars were clearing out in front of us. Karen was out of my face for no more than 10 seconds before I saw her huffing up to my car again like an angry Donald Duck. It was perfect timing. I was just able to move forward literally as her fist was raised to my window again. The look on her face as we drove past was hilarious. I see Karen in my rear view literally scrambling back to her car, and she and Ken peel out acting like they were fast when the car behind me was letting them in anyway. They come to a screeching halt behind me, and the entire time they're inching off to the left like they're going to just magically squeeze their SUV through the 2 feet of space available on the left. For all this drama, keep in mind that this all happened within about 4 minutes. All said and done, we found parking within 5 minutes of getting there. Don't know what Karen's deal was, but honestly, F her. Some people who don't have the emotional maturity required to wait in lines have the most obnoxious coping strategy. They torture the people directly in front of them in the very same line to go faster, despite how obviously impossible and insane that is. And our second story. Neighbor won't stop using my washer, then asks me to be his personal laundry service. My fiance and I used to live in an old, cheap apartment complex in a sketchy part of town. I'd lived there for a year before we moved in together, so I had seen a lot of people come and go. Close to the end of our lease, a new neighbor had moved in above us. He was young and lived alone. For context, each building in the complex had washer and dryer hookups in the shared basement. Every tenant had access to the basement with 2 sets of hookups and closets that each had their own locks. The basement door itself was also locked and each tenant had a key. Most people didn't have their own washers or dryers, but when my fiance and I got the chance to buy some, we did. We'd had ours for about 3 months before the new neighbor, NN, moved in. Here's where the issue began. I do laundry multiple times a day, so I was constantly in and out of the basement. I started noticing that the basement door was being left unlocked, which struck me as odd because NN had nothing in the basement. At first I thought maybe I'd forgotten to lock it, but then one night after starting a load before bed, I heard footsteps and the chime of my washing machine going off. I waited, listened, and heard footsteps again as they went upstairs. I immediately ran down to check. There, on the concrete floor of the basement, were my clothes, dirty and discarded, with his clothes in the washer. I was furious. I asked my fiancé to go up and talk to NN. My fiancé explained that the washer was ours, hooked up to our water and electric, and was not a shared resource. NN was angry and asked, well, where am I supposed to do my laundry? My fiancé suggested the laundromat down the street, explaining that we used to go there too. NN was furious and said, I don't rent a place to go to the laundromat. He slammed the door in my fiancé's face. We left NN's wet clothes in the basket he brought them in right in front of his door. The next day, I went down to wash our clothes, but NN's clothes were in my washer again. I went back up and explained once again that the washer wasn't shared. I was at my wit's end and called the landlord explaining the situation. The landlord said they talked to NN. When I spoke to NN later, he claimed he really needed work clothes washed because we'd been using the washer all week and that he didn't have a car to get to the laundromat. I reluctantly agreed but told him not to use it again. He promised he wouldn't. Then, as I was about to walk away, he asked if I could just throw them in the dryer real quick. I was so shocked, I just said, sure, went and did it, and tried to walk away as quickly as possible. The next day, NN's clothes were still in my dryer. I took them up to his apartment. He asked if I could pop a load in the wash for him. At that point, I was beyond frustrated and told him again, no, this is my machine. He slammed his door in my face. This went on until our landlord took his basement key away. But of course, that didn't end the issues. NN started blasting loud music all night, every night. Worst neighbor ever. If I were in NN's position, once I realized the washer was not shared, I'd be so embarrassed I'd probably apologize nonstop and do everything I could to avoid causing more issues. The idea that NN kept pushing for his way after being told it wasn't a shared space, and even asked for further favors like using the dryer and washing his clothes, was just beyond reasonable. And our last story. Karen thinks she owns the entire street. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where people keep to themselves. Lawns are neatly trimmed and life is, for the most part, peaceful, except for one massive exception, Karen. Karen is that neighbor, you know the type, the one who peeks through her blinds 24/7, who acts like she's the mayor of the street and whose entire personality is based on being a nuisance. And apparently walking my dogs is now a crime in her eyes. It all started about a month ago. I was walking my dogs, minding my own business. They're well trained, always on the leash, and don't bother anyone. The absolute definition of good boys. As we were strolling past Karen's house, one of them did what dogs do. Stepped one paw onto the edge of a lawn, not even Karen's lawn. That's when I heard it. Excuse me. I turned around to see Karen storming down her driveway, her arms flailing like she was directing air traffic. Karen, you can't let your dogs walk on the grass. This is private property. Me. What? Karen, this entire street is private property. You're trespassing. Now, at first I thought she was joking. Maybe I was being pranked. But no, Karen's face was twisted in pure rage. Me. It's a sidewalk. Karen, sidewalk or not, the grass belongs to homeowners. Your dogs are not allowed to set foot on anyone's lawn. At this point, I was genuinely stunned. My dog had barely even touched the grass. We were on a leash, not digging up flower beds. Me. Karen, my dogs are just walking. We're not damaging anything. Karen, crossing her arms. You need to use the other street. This one is private property. I laughed out loud before I could stop myself. Me. Karen, this is a public road. Karen. I'll call the police. Oh, here we go. I wasn't about to let a random lady with a superiority complex dictate where I could walk, so I continued my stroll. Not 2 minutes later, I heard a furious shriek from behind me. Karen was on the phone. Karen, fake panicked voice. Yes, officer, there's a trespasser on our private road with dangerous dogs. They're threatening me. Please hurry. I stopped in my tracks. Me. Are you actually calling the cops? Karen, hissing into the phone like a cartoon villain. You brought this on yourself. At this point, I had two choices. Argue with Karen, which would accomplish nothing. Let her embarrass herself when the police inevitably ignored her ridiculous call. I chose option 2. I smirked, waved, and kept walking. For the next few days, every time I walked my dogs, Karen would glare daggers at me from her porch. It was almost comical. Then one morning as I was mid-walk, another neighbor, let's call him Joe, came up to me shaking his head laughing. Joe, dude, did you hear about Karen's petition? Me. Oh God, what now? Joe, she went around trying to get people to sign a petition to ban you and your dogs from the street. I burst out laughing. Me, you're kidding. Joe, nope. She knocked on my door yesterday, said you were disrespecting property rights and endangering the neighborhood with your wild animals. My dogs, who were literally sitting at my feet, wagging their tails, tilted their heads like, we are what now? Me, please tell me no one signed it. Joe, oh, absolutely no one. Most people laughed in her face. That was the moment I knew I'd already won. Karen, however, was not done embarrassing herself. One day as I was coming back from a walk, an actual police car pulled onto the street. I figured it had nothing to do with me, but nope. Karen came speed walking out of her house, flagging them down. Karen, officer, that's him, that's the trespasser. I stood there absolutely baffled as the cop, who looked like he had better things to do, walked up to me. Cop, sir, is there a problem here? Me, not on my end. Karen, he keeps walking his dogs on private property. I want him banned. The cop slowly turned to me. Cop, you're walking your dogs on the sidewalk? Me, yep. Cop, blinking, exhaling like he regretted his career choices. Man, this is a public road. He has every right to walk here. Karen, but the grass belongs to the homeowners. Cop, ma'am, that's what's called an easement. Homeowners don't own the public sidewalks or the strip of grass next to them. It's public access. Karen, horrified as if she'd just learned the world wasn't flat. What? Cop, if you keep harassing your neighbor, he can actually file a complaint against you. Karen muttered something under her breath, turned around, and stormed back into her house, slamming the door so hard her porch light rattled. The cop turned back to me, sighed, and just said, "Have a nice day." And with that, he left. Since then, Karen stopped talking to me. She still glares from her window, but I make sure to smile and wave every time I walk by. My dogs still enjoy their walks right on the same sidewalk Karen tried to ban us from. HOAs, Karens, and self-proclaimed neighborhood overlords love to pretend they have power until you remind them that reality exists. And that's exactly what I did. Oh my God, she was really collecting signatures for a petition? This is the stupidest thing anyone's done in a long time. I love how she escalated from screeching at you to fake calling 911 like you were an armed fugitive instead of, a person walking their dogs. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.